Hey, what's up guys? Today our video is going to be a little different. I'm going to do a deck analysis and archetype breakdown without much gameplay. I sent my version of Red Blue Pawpsicles to Ducky after seeing him play his version on stream, and when he switched to my variation, he really liked it, and he went on a crazy win streak on it. A lot of his viewers who were watching were asking for the exact list, but he told them that I'd be putting a video on the list, so here I am. Shout out to Ducky and his Twitch, by the way. If you guys want to see some gameplay clips with the deck, just go check out his Twitch channel and give him a follow. I'll provide the link below in the description. So there's a lot of red-blue running around on high ladder nowadays and a lot of variations. So I'll cover the core of the deck and then I'll talk about my take on it and which cards I decided to play in my variant. So here's the deck list. Yep, that's the entire deck. You guys are looking at one of the strongest draw card interactions in Lorcana. Throw in another 52 cards and call it a day. Okay, but seriously, the fundamental core of the deck is Hiram and Pawpsicles. Turn 1 Pawpsicles set you up for so many auto-win games, you just have to experience it for yourself to see what I mean. Pawpsicles draws you a card and only costs 1, and even though it's inkable, it's actually such a good card that you basically never ink it turn 1. Except in extremely rare cases. Hiram draws you 2 cards when it comes in and sacrifices an item, which if you guys know anything about drawing 2 cards in Lorcana, it's pretty good. Forget the fact that he's only 4 cost and inkable, but when he quests, he draws you another 2 cards if you sacrifice an item. Slap on a 6 toughness body and you have a completely busted draw card engine in the works. Rapunzel has ended many games on the spot by drawing 3 cards. Hiram draws you 2 cards and then 2 cards again, and possibly again and again. So building off this concept, we now include Nick Wild. And this guy returns a Pawpsicle to your hand from your banished pile. So Pawpsicles is now going to draw you another card when you play it, and another 2 from Hiram. Seems pretty fair, right? Now, can we also look at the fact that Nick curves out perfectly into Hiram? You Hiram a Pawpsicle on turn 4, and then on turn 5 you play Nick, cast Pawpsicle, and quest with Hiram to draw another 3 cards for the turn. Oh, and Nick, also inkable, quest for 2 lore. Don't have a Hiram on turn 4? No problem. Now Judy comes into the mix. She can turn 3 kill your own Pawpsicle to draw a card, and then follow it up with a turn 4 Nick. She's not as broken as Hiram, but still a solid card draw, and she also quests for 2 and is inkable. She can also destroy an important item of your opponent's if you need to get rid of a spellbook or something. Okay, so we got a draw engine, which every deck should have, but ours is crazy busted. How do we build around this? Well, we're playing blue, and blue is the best color for ink ramp. You know what's better than turn 1 Pawpsicle into turn 4 Hiram? A turn 3 Hiram. So enter 1 jump ahead. Now you got turn 1 Pawpsicle, turn 2 1 jump ahead, and turn 3 Hiram. And there is no turn 4 follow-up to this, as your opponent should have probably conceded by now, saving both of you a lot of time. Ramping into card draw is very good. So let's find more ramp. Enter Fishbone Quill. One of Fishbone Quill's biggest weakness is that the card itself doesn't generate any card advantage. It just turns cards into your hand into ink while taking up a card in the deck. But now with Hiram, you get the extra ink ramp and sacrifice Quill to Hiram and draw 2 cards. Every single Fishbone becomes a friends on the other side. Don't forget to start fishboning your 1 jump aheads from this point to not lose a card off the top of your deck. Okay, great. Our deck has massive ramp and the best card draw engine in the game. So what do we do with all the ink and cards we draw? Enter red, finally, our second color. Specifically the card Be Prepared, the only mass character removal spell in the entire game, and the reason why most Pawpsicle players are all playing red. Blue-red wasn't really a thing in Chapter 1 because it had no card draw, but now that problem has been fixed. Also, Be Prepared's power level was countered by its exceptionally high ink cost at 7, but it was still a phenomenal card and the reason why red-purple control even existed. But now paired with ramp, you can get it out as fast as turn 4.
Denied.
Being prepared is the solution to all of life's issue, and so with this one simple trick, you can be prepared faster than ever. Cogsworth, be prepared. Cusco, be prepared. Opponent goes wide, be prepared. Opponent goes narrow, screw it, be prepared. Job interview, you better be prepared. You need tempo, sing, be prepared. Mill wheels you, draw, be prepared. Broken car horn, get your be prepared. Anyways, that's the main core of the blue-red decks. Variations of this deck will start branching out on how red-blue players want to close out the game. I've seen versions with Poppy, Mother Gothels, Dinner Bells, and Golden Flowers. A very popular one that's running around is Tamatoa item heavy decks with Maurice workshops and stuff. For myself, I went light on the item package with a focus on high removal card value oriented questers. My plan was to ramp up, draw cards, and play Be Prepared. Then I take control of the game after the board clear by chain dropping removal after removal. So the deck list features Maleficent Dragons, which is a 2-for-1, Hades, which is a 2-for-1, Lady Tremaine, which is a 2-for-1, Maui, which is usually a 2-for-1. I like 2-for-1s. Aside from Maui, these guys will also quest and carry you to 20 lore as you keep dropping them turn after your Be Prepared. There's a ton of value of both removal and threats in these cards. Let It Go is just more removal, although it's mostly ink since it doesn't simultaneously remove and provide a body, unlike our other removal characters. But it does come in handy once in a while against a card like Yellow Mufasa, whose death ability doesn't trigger if you send him to the inkwell with Let It Go or Hades. It's also nice that Maui can sing Let It Go, so he has something to do after taking a character out from the previous turn. For some other non-removal cards, we have Robin Hood, which you can usually ramp up to dig deeper, and he's actually just Nick Wilde in a different multiverse. Blue Gaston is also really good at finding your pieces of your draw engine if you have the ramp and are missing a Pawpsicle or Hiram. If you already have those pieces, he draws you your best card out of the next 3, and he beats down for a whopping 3 lore. My original list ran Red Gaston to shift onto, but in testing I felt Red Gaston wasn't pulling his weight, so I cut him out and dropped Blue Gaston to 3. You guys can play around with this. Last, and certainly not least, the aspect of the deck I really wanted to build around was actually Grandma Tala. She helps a lot with getting to that turn 4 or 5 Be Prepared even more, and she's actually both a monster defender and quester. Nobody wants to touch poor old Granny, so she can start questing in for lore early on, and if they start to quest and exert, you can always sacrifice her to ramp up to your 7-drop Be Prepared. She also has an incredible singing interaction with Teeth and Ambitions, which we run 4 of and can sing 1 jump ahead. Yellow Steel has an absolutely busted opener of turn 1 Cinderella, turn 2 Sing Let the Storm Rage On. And in this deck we try to abuse a similar concept of turn 2 Grandma Tala, turn 3 Sing Teeth and Ambitions with Granny Suicide. Granny with Teeth allows us to ramp up while removing a character on their board, all the while having 3 ink open on our turn 3 for a Fishbone Quill, a Judy, or just casting a 1 jump ahead. With blue-red being fairly weak early game, I think Grandma Teeth is an important component to ward off early game aggression without losing focus of its ink acceleration plans. Another great Teeth and Ambitions line is turn 3 Fishbone Quill with activation, and then on turn 4 activate it again and play Hiram, sacrificing the Quill and casting Teeth and Ambitions to take down a character on their board. Hiram has 6 toughness and can happily absorb the 2 damage. And don't forget guys, Pawpsicle can heal for up to 2 damage, and the ability comes into play a lot more than you think. The Pawpsicle engine is just absolutely busted. And finally, we're running 3 Minnie Mouses because she just has decent interaction with Teeth and Ambitions against early game hyper aggro decks. I also just think it's nice to run a 1-drop character in the deck. And at Ducky's request, we are also now running 1 or 2 of Tamatoa, which seems like a pretty good replacement for Robin Hood. And I've also been testing out an extra 1-drop here and there between Shield or Scepter for items. So that's the list, but I want to remind you guys that this list is still heavily on the testing stages, so I suggest you guys play around with a lot of the deck list and core concepts to your liking. I'll cover some of the ideas you guys can play around with. We have Queen of Hearts, which is a 2-drop rush character which can catch a lot of players off guard. I do really like her and I think she'll be really good if aggro picks up, but once the metagame starts catching on to her existence, I feel like she might go down in value. Gaston. I tried him, but I personally couldn't get him to work very well, but I might have had sample size issues. He could actually still be really good. He doesn't have very good synergy with Teeth and Ambitions though. Mickey Detective I felt was terrible because the deck doesn't have anything amazing it wants to ramp to at 5 ink. It really just wants to ramp to 7+, and Mickey is uninkable and he doesn't have Fishbone Hiram synergy. I've also been playing around with Scar here and there, and I have mixed feelings about him. Sometimes he's really good, and sometimes he's just not as good as Hades or Lady Tremaine. I think he's worth testing more, and I think Scar would be insane if we were running with something like Cogsworth. Which brings me to the point of Cogsworth. I actually started my deck list with 4 Cogsworth, seeing that he's one of the best blue cards in the game, but he just didn't fit the theme of our deck at all. Cogsworth really hates the card Be Prepared, as he wants to just stay on the board sitting around protecting all our characters. But our deck wants to play Be Prepared, so he doesn't really fit thematically with the deck's main objective. I think this deck's strongest selling point is that it has an incredibly good matchup against Yellow Steel Lantern Wheel. So if you're looking for a deck that beats up on it, then play this deck. Fishbone, Tala, and One Jump naturally counters wheel decks, because while you're ramping up fast, they wheel you right into hands full of gas of Be Prepareds and removals, and you have all the ink you could ever want to use it. Their Cinderella Storm has no good early game value unless they want to ramp you up from Grandma Tala, and you just have way too much removal and big bodies for them to deal with after they wheel. Grandma's Denture package also nukes their important shift cards like Cinderella, Stitch, and Queen. This deck is Yellow Steel's Kryptonite. I also feel like this version of the deck has an extremely good matchup against all the aggro and mid-range aggro decks out there. But the one exception is the super hyper aggro decks that run stuff like Pinocchio, Maleficent, Befuddle, Lilo. If you go first, you're probably okay, but on the draw, it's going to be an extremely rough matchup if you don't get a good Minnie Mouse Teeth or Grandma Teeth off. Discard decks seem to be a little problematic, but I think it's still pretty close. It's very important in this matchup to ramp up quickly with Fishbone Quill and dump your hand to Quill to deny them discard value. A very early Be Prepared to get rid of Prince John and Bucky is extremely important and should win you the game off your top decks if you can ramp Be Prepared to clear those guys. Their mid to late game is very weak, so if you hit 7 to 9 ink, all your top decks against them should demolish them. Your Hiram engine can also just outdraw their discard engine if you get that going on in the game. Purple-red control decks can be hard, but not terrible. Save your Judies for their spellbooks if they run them, and a well-timed Teeth will really mess up their tempo. Ramp up and just drop all your removal and threats to out-tempo them and be aggressive and quest to victory. I don't think you should try and play a long game against red-purple control. The metagame is still very fresh and in development, so I don't have too much comments about it as everyone is still busy brewing some new stuff, so I'll leave off the video at that. Try and experiment with the deck guys, and I think you'll have a blast with how obscenely powerful the Pawpsicle engine is. Good luck and happy brewing.